Welcome to r/regular revenge, where you don't want to go all out like pro revenge, but you don't want to be petty like petty revenge. It's just the right amount of revenge. So I hope you enjoyed these stories of people getting what's coming to them. Please like and subscribe for more content. Thank you. So this first story is by username The UK is Mine. My abusive boss didn't care about his staff's health or safety, and it cost him his business and his contracts. I was sent here from r/pro revenge. Let's see if this is the right place, shall we? This story will include no real names and a location will not be given. I am obligated to inform you I wrote this on mobile, and have no idea how long this will be. Backstory. I was an idiot growing up and ended up in a rehabilitation program for people under 18 to avoid jail time and eventually got given a place at a large charity agency that sources workers for anything from retail to gardening. The person directly in control of my position at said charity was one of those I'm too nice for anyone to notice me doing wrong people, and he put me, someone who literally couldn't and still can't years later, talk to a stranger without panicking, into a job in retail speaking to upwards of 35 plus customers a day. May not sound like a lot, but I struggled to make it through a day without going into the back room and crying. Story. So I got assigned to work in unsure of the right word here, but privately owned retail place that sells upcycled furniture. I had previously worked at the site, actually doing the upcycling, and knew this stuff was a scam. Barely had a thing changed, and the people doing the work spent most of the day drinking coffee and smoking while playing games on their phone. The boss of the site, Kevin, showed just what kind of person he was from day one by threatening to fire me for telling him I can't handle strangers and shouting in my face. God, I wish he had fired me. This never got better, and over the months of working there, and I eventually started recording it all without his knowledge. Among the things he did is this list. 1. Shouting at staff for not putting toilet paper on the holder. There was a pile of it on the back of the toilet. 2. Calling the person in charge of my placement and reporting me for lack of workplace enthusiasm in front of me while I was having a panic attack. 3. Telling a 70-plus-year-old woman who I worked with that she needs to grow up and handle confrontation like a man after having two large men shout and swear at her for refusing to sell an already sold item to them. 4. Throwing his phone, told by another employee, after I called in sick for a day due to crippling stomach pains brought on by Crohn's. 5. After being told at 11 a.m. that I won't make it to my shift due to being in hospital, proceeded to call me at 3 a.m. the next morning and yell at me. He seemed very drunk, demanding I have a doctor prove I was in the hospital because I didn't give 2 weeks' notice. And back to the story. All of this was recorded in the space of only 3 weeks, and I gave it all to my placement manager, who proceeded to organize a meeting between himself, Kevin, and me to try and put things right. During this meeting, however, instead of calmly talking about the issue and what can be done to solve it, all the evidence was shown to Kevin, who then yelled at me for recording him, then throwing a full-on tantrum that I would dare question his style of management, while I sat there scared as heck, and my placement manager did just nothing. Back we go to work with a final warning strike issued to me for gross misconduct, and told that I should do as stated in my contract and everything else that is asked of me, or I would be fired. I'd do everything I can to follow my contract, and anything else asked of me, instead of including cleaning a toilet and see a broken window above it. That's when I finally get a plan together. The revenge. The plan I came up with meant I had to stay in everyone's good books, deal with a-hole customers, go to work even in crippling pain, and doze on meds to control my panicking. But in exchange, my belief was I could get Kevin replaced or at least get myself removed from the situation. I should have clarified earlier, being fired from any site also gets you taken off the charity's payroll. I started informing Kevin of every little safety violation the site managed to break, from broken windows in the female toilets, loose light fixtures and broken locks on doors, all the way up to a giant glass panel going across the front of the shop that was barely hanging in by a few bits of rubber and could easily kill a small child or less than strong adult if it were to fall out. I emailed him and texted him about each one individually and brought it up to other staff in hopes they would do the same, while making sure to take photos of each of these issues so I could use them later. Another month and a half of working there, and at this point I felt I may have a little too many minor details saved up, but decided it's best to go overkill than underkill, and sent a huge message to the UK HSE, Health and Safety Executive, dealing every risk and danger with photos attached to show what the place was doing wrong and requesting an inspection. Of course, they obliged. 1 week later, I got a phone call from Kevin. He tells me how the shop is closing down, how a safety inspection was carried out, and how it had been failed so badly that he lost his contract with the charity and that nobody would be able to use the building for weeks while everything gets brought back up to code. But he couldn't run the place anymore due to money issues while it was closed because he had no savings for this. I never heard from him again. A year later, after this happened, I moved on and began working from home doing image editing for ClickCash, and around a year later, I get a call from the placement manager who hadn't heard from me the whole time, and I got asked in the coldest, most passive aggressive tone, "Why didn't you tell me the store closed?" Turns out they have been apparently paying me £300 a day for a job I didn't have, hours I didn't work, and this was all apparently being reported on the charity's income as someone else's account. They got me confused with another person and reported their hard work on my files, and it took them a year to notice because of how badly they handled everything. Just clearing the confusion. They had my name on another person's paperwork, and though they paid the right person, they were using my name. As for the numbers being so high, going off the comments on my previous posting, it is likely some type of fraud was happening on one side or the other. To those who may assume this was Sports Direct, no, it wasn't. Another obligatory note. R/, if you are reading this, on behalf of every single subscriber, more puppy bloopers, please. To those against R/ who may wish to comment about him or start a debate in the comments, please find somewhere else. Well, I don't know if R/ is going to do the song or do the story, but I know I did. I would actually say this was pro revenge because he did lose his business, and to me that's more pro than regular, but that is just me. But I am a subscriber to R/, so if anyone does read this and you don't know who R/ is, please check him out. I will link his account in the description below along with this story so you can read it as well, because he is an amazing YouTuber and he is the reason why I want to start making my own Reddit stories. So, thanks for reading. So, the second story is by username It's Ya Man Dave. Mother gets fired, I get mice to shut down the business. This was originally posted in r/pro revenge, but it was removed. Had requests from other users to repost here. Hi y'all, the story is about my mother. My mother worked for a hotel chain in which usually has a chain of restaurants right next to them, so they were all under an umbrella company. My mother worked in the hotel, and my sister worked in the restaurant next door. My sister ended up dating her boss, the manager of the restaurant, for a while, till he started cheating on her. We found this out as my mother, as the head of the hotel, monitored the CCTV in the hotel and the restaurant, and saw other workers going up to his apartment above the hotel that he lived in regularly, and the worker not coming out until the morning after. My mother broke it to my sister, who immediately resigned and worked elsewhere. But the manager ended up finding out that it was my mother who had told her daughter about his cheating, so he resented her for it. During that time, the hotel and restaurant split, and my mother was made redundant, but was offered an immediate start in the restaurant next door as an assistant manager. Good pay raise, working with familiar people, and the agreement that the manager who cheated on my sister would have to be on separate shifts so there was no conflict of interest. She accepted the job. The manager ended up making my mother's life heck in subtle ways by always putting her on 12-hour shifts, not paying overtime on time, etc. My mother is a hard worker, so she never complained and got the work done. The manager didn't like this, as most of the workers would supplement her workload and helped her out when it was needed. The manager decided to bring out the big guns and ended up plotting for my mother to get fired. He put my mother on the night shift, and she proceeded to go through the normal processes of emptying the tills and putting everything in the safe behind the kitchen, which only the assistant manager, my mother, and the manager had access to based on company policies. My mother went through her night shift and put everything in the safe as usual, locked it, and went home. She gets a call the next morning requesting her to come in on her day off. She was accused of leaving the safe door open, which by policy is gross misconduct. But there was no money missing. The company investigated this, but the CCTV only covered the hallway leading up to the safe room and caught a figure wearing a black hoodie and go into the safe room. It then became a police matter who couldn't confirm nor deny that it was the manager who lived in the apartment upstairs, as a CCTV was apparently down on that night overlooking his apartment entrance. Convenient. All of this blew over, and my mother got a final warning, and the manager was ordered to manage a different restaurant in another city. He moved out, and another manager came in. The new manager loved my mother, reemployed my sister, and it was smooth for a few years, until the previous manager got transferred back. Obviously, my mother was anxious that something would happen again, and the same subtle torture came back 12-hour shifts, etc. As my mother predicted, she was called up another morning, asking her to come in on her day off, and they had HR waiting there for her. They accused her of stealing from the tills. On the night in question, she was manager of the night, but the CCT recording had been deleted in some bizarre data loss event. Again, convenient. She got fired for gross misconduct. The house was nearly repossessed, and I, as the youngest, sometimes had to go to school without a meal. As I've gotten older, I understood that what this manager did, and obviously I'd want to rip his head off. My partner ended up getting a job at the hotel next to the restaurant, and she told me about the smoking area and that it mixes with the restaurant. She said that they had a big problem with mice in the kitchen. I saw the chance for my mother's redemption, and I reported it to the council. The hotel my partner worked at got shut down for 2 weeks while an exterminator came in, but as it was the restaurant's responsibility, as they owned the land, they faced huge fines and ended up putting that restaurant into negative profit, and it looks like the restaurant chain decided to shut the building down as the local residents stopped eating there. The building is currently up for sale. The hotel customers are still a bit disappointed that there isn't a restaurant close by, but my partner still has the job. My mother is working as a manager of a different hotel for a different hotel chain. I never told my mother what I did. I just know she was happy when she heard the manager that did all this to her got fired for gross misconduct for not reporting the mice. Thanks for reading. Yeah, I highly doubt those occurrences with the CCTV were not on accident. They were purposely messed with. If you had a boss like that, he definitely messed with the CCTV footage. But that is it for my second video on r/RegularRevenge. Please look forward to next week as I start a new Reddit called r/scams. that talk about the scams that people try to pull or have pulled, so maybe you can learn to watch out for them. Please like and subscribe for more content. Thank you.